The reason I'm asking is that I needed the opposers to come to this side, the proposers to this side, but it looks like we'll try this new method next week. Now, I'd like to declare the floor open for any submissions. Yes, Lynette?
Thank you very much, members. I think before we start our discussions, let's believe. Thank you, Lord, for this time, O God. As we want to start our discussions so far, I pray that when we speak something that will impact knowledge in our minds, O God. I pray that may you be with us as we are going to start until the end, and let's speak factual things, O God, that will make each and everyone here feel like he or she has gotten something. For I pray in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
I will repeat the motion once again for the last time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before we even begin, I want to say I feel unsafe in this environment. Why? Some of us don't have masks on, and I don't know whether you or not you guys are vaccinated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
Mr. Speaker, that's a crucial point. Honorable member here has raised here. But the way she has raised it, Mr. Speaker, is that she was joking because she was raising a very important point and she was still laughing, Mr. Speaker. So next time, my honorable members, when they are raising a specific point and it's very heavy, just be serious, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Seeing that there is no any other thing, I'll repeat the motion. Does the presence of natural resources influence U.S. foreign policy on democracy promotion in Africa? Now I declare the floor open. Yes, Jack.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Maybe before even establishing the opinion and sentiments, maybe I can elaborate what is natural resources to educate our fellow members. Natural resources, these are the materials that maybe a nation have. For example, you can say minerals, we can say even the natural like forests, Then if I get to the other point, foreign policy on the U.S. foreign policy on democracy promotion. U.S. foreign policies. These are policies that a policy is a set of rules or regulations which a body can come up with to guide or to set a way or to have a framework of how things can be done. So these U.S. foreign policies, these are maybe I want us to get to understand these are policies influenced on, directed, or it is US which have influenced them to come up. Maybe we can look at environmental change, globalization, technology. We look at that, and then how has it affected the promotion of democracy in African countries, and then we all know what is democracy, and then now the flow is okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to add on what Jackson has said, if we can recall when we were taught by Madam Carol in, I think, second year or 1.2 about the definition of a foreign policy according to Hugh Gibson, that it is a well-rounded, comprehensive plan which is done by a state, like the way US can do it, for conducting its business, the business of the government, with the rest of the world, and it's aimed at protecting its national interests. So it's the state which conducts this business, the government of that particular state that conducts this business with the rest of the world, so that then it can protect its own national interests. So in this case, does the US in its foreign policy aim at democratizing the African countries because of the natural resources for its own national interest? Thank you.
Any comments on the motion? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Therefore, I propose this motion because, first and foremost, I can say that for the countries that have democratized, starting from the third wave of democratization in the world, that Africa has not fully achieved a stable democracy. If you can look at an example of Kenya, it is a democracy, but it is not such a stable democracy. But then we know with the kind of democracy we have, it has achieved stability. And therefore this stability has allowed the United States to have foreign direct investment in Kenya and even other countries in Africa which are democratized, which would otherwise not be possible if it were not for this kind of democracy. For a case scenario, we can look at South Sudan. And we know that the military was supposed to surrender its power to the civil government, isn't it? But it was not, it did not surrender this power to this civil power to the government. We know what happened, the military coup and all that. I believe everyone of us knows about that. So, stability is, democracy comes with stability. And then this stability allows foreign direct investment. That is why I propose this motion, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. US foreign direct investment in African states, the presence of natural resources in Africa stipulates US policy on democratization in Africa. Because what I can say, first, not even the US. Most of the European states, they came to Africa during the colonization, not because of anything, but just because of the natural resources, rather for their investment purposes. And when we look at the US, if you look at those countries where democracy is fully stipulated, not as liberal as ideally it should be, but then US has played a major role. Let's look, for instance, in Nigeria. The fact that Nigeria has a lot of mineral resources, that's the oil, you'll find that there is there is how US policy affects the Nigerians, because by the way, there is a way they will be treated compared to, just as she has said, compared to how Southern Sudan will be treated, because these people, the US state, they have an interest, because the African-US relation is what can they achieve from Africa, not what can we get from them. And so, them imposing this policy, I always say, or rather I support, is because to the natural resource. They will not go somewhere where there is no natural resources. For instance, if you look at most of the places where the US have invested, is because there is natural resources in those places, right? And so this affects the democratic nature of the states. Another thing that I can say is, if you look at how we know that the Britain institutions, most of them are owned by, not most of them, they are owned by US, right? And if you look at this institution, most of the African states, if it happens that you got no good natural resources that they can come and have a benefit on them, it will be very hard for these states to get the loan from the World Bank, all those international monetary fund. And so, U.S. foreign policy on Africa is highly influenced by the natural resources present in those states. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can oppose the motion because in Africa we have resources, countries with natural resources like Libya, even in Kenya, in Turkana, we have a dream for oil. But these Western countries are affecting us because, for example, we produce oil in Turkana, but if you look at the prices of fuel design, whereas we have the natural resource. Another thing, if we go to Libya, there was this president called Mohamed Gaddafi. She brought something about he brought something about having Africa as a one state. But because of his work, trying to bring Africa together so that we can use our resources to develop ourselves, the Western people, especially USA, killed the man because he had a good intention to us. So we are limited because if we use these resources, the natural resources that we have, we can overdo the Western influence. So the US foreign policy affects Africans negatively because we can't depend on ourselves. They want even everything. If we say we want milk, for example, if I tell you, we buy local milk, you can't buy. You either go for a supermarket or the imported things. So it's better for us to use our resources, carefully, so that the people of Western cannot come and overthrow us from our natural resources. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Jack.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. I would like to pose second this my honorable member and say the presence of natural resources have an impact on the US foreign policies and promote democracy. First, there are four main objectives for the US foreign policies in Africa. One, it is to secure their people in African continent. This is their allies or their citizens. Point number two, it is also to make sure they promote human rights and democracy. Point number three, the US the importance of this US foreign policy is also to control hegemony, to control any country coming into that power, to control that world order, to ensure no any other country rises as part United States of America. And then these are now the four objectives to their foreign policy. I get one foreign policy like global environmental policy in the year 1990. Yes, in the year 1990, I think it is. And then 1994, one of our own African member, Professor Wangari Maathai, was given a Nobel Peace Prize. Reason of one thing, US came up with this policy to criticize deforestation. So one thing they knew, like if I give an example in DRC Congo, there are a lot of logging there because DRC Congo have one of the largest natural forests. So it came up with this policy to control deforestation. And this is an impact, one in our country, Kenya, and then in the US. Professor Wangari Maathai, with now that stand from the US, for that foreign policy, she came up with a plan that our country should be under 10% forest cover. And then you can see she came up with the Green Belt movement, and this has come up with issues on our democracy. It is on this ground still, Professor Wangari Maathai had guts and had power to fight late President Daniel Arap Moi, who was it's not a lunatic, but a dictator. At that time, we are in one party state. So we could never criticize Khan. So what does it mean? U.S. foreign policy on we stand on that deforestation, and then Professor Wangari Maathai now gets this gut. You cannot. It came a time that former late President Daniel Moi decided to do away with Nyayo, the park in the Uhuru Park, and it be I think they wanted to create something there to build something. And Professor Wangari Maathai stood with farms saying no, this one is something to cater for our environment. So on that issue, I can also put a point on if we go on trade, like when Daniel Moi was a president, he was a dictator, and the US raised issues. One, even the Britain institution, let's say that point, that even AMREF and World Bank raised like sanctions to Kenya, that we wouldn't do this until we change from that one-party state to a multi-party state. So it means because of some few things US gains from our country. US is the largest oil importer in the whole world, because they have the largest companies, they have, I think, the largest economy in the whole world. So they need that more oil. And that's my good friend saying that it was also maybe a negative part on Africa. Muammar Gaddafi being killed because of being stand on oil. So most of it has started, US has started because of the foreign policies to promote democracy and human rights in Africa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think some of the members are misleading the House, Mr. Speaker. And I would like honorable member here to just specify on how the facts right. Is US the highest importer of oil, Mr. Speaker, or it's China, Mr. Speaker? So let us have facts when we are debating, Mr. Speaker. So I would like him to respond whether it's the US or it's China, Mr. Speaker. Then I will get satisfied.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. To write on that, US from 1990s to 2009, US has been the leading oil importer. Maybe now my friend can now educate me and how has China come up from there? Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's always nice, as I put it earlier on, when you come to debating, you have facts. There are so many ways that you can have this fact, you can search for them. And up to 2020, Mr. Speaker, as we speak, China is one of the leading importer of crude oil, Mr. Speaker. So I would advise my honorable member there, or I educate him before coming to spread them, call them rumors. He should first of all research, Mr. Speaker, so that he can have varied information in the House, Mr. Speaker.
Are your facts substantiated?
Of course, yes. I give facts.
Jack, are your facts substantiated?
Yes. I have cited even the time and the timelines, so I'm not wrong.
Mr. Speaker, then you can consult. We have somewhere we can consult meanwhile as the debate goes on.
Kindly. Other submissions? Yes, Mercy.
Let me say that there are some benefits that come up from the natural resources that are in Africa. And for instance, the US, they do benefit they do offer some. Okay, in Africa we do benefit some things like being peaceful, some peaceful well, the rulings that are done, they come to be fair. For example, when we have some elections in Africa, there is some countries from the US that come to help us do some fair and just elections. And so there is peace promotion that comes as a result of that. And there is things like health. They help to do things with HIV and AIDS or else in COVID-19. There is some aids that we get from the US, like the medicines to prevent COVID-19 and HIV and AIDS. ARVs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. What I'm trying to say is that US being one of the most developed nations, it will influence or it is directly influence less developed nations in Africa, so as to impose or make rules that will favor them. You can remember the game independence from Britain, as it emerged as one of the most powerful nations. It is likely to influence other nations like Kenya or third world nations, which are less developed. For them to cooperate with them, they must pass laws or regulations that will favor them. For instance, not only US but other nations that are more powerful, they are likely to influence other nations like Kenya. Most of our leaders are fearing to experience economic sanctions. If for instance, Kenya, if it has relations with US, it is likely to do or follow the rules and regulations that US impose so as they can get that assistance. That's all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. What I can say about US promotion of democracy in Africa in reference to the natural resources present in Africa is it's pretty sure, I'm pretty sure, and it's very true that most of the African states who are endowed with plenty of natural resources, especially in this case talking of the oil, their leaders have always turned out to be dictators. Not only in Africa, but when we look at the world at large, most of the developing nations, rather the third world countries, who are much endowed with oil, have always have dictatorship. And the fact that they have always have leaders who are dictators, it means there is no democracy. There is no freedom. The democracy has been curtailed. And this implies that for these people to be in a democratic state, kind of, though not liberal, as I've said earlier, US will always come in because they know what they want to achieve. US will always come in as they will always help the members of the state at least to have that freedom in return, they will always have achieved what they wanted. If my member of parliament, Cynthia, can concur with me, when this guy was killed, what is his name? Oh. You say, not who? Remind me the name. No. He was called, that's your boyfriend. Remind me. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry for that. Not Saddam, the other one. Hussein, not who? Yeah, Hussein. When Hussein was killed, the people who were behind his killing was US. Why? It is because his state was much endowed by the natural resources, that is oil. And because, they come in a way that is not good. Because they want all for themselves, but they don't, what they give you is just a, how do I call it, just a peanut. In fact, we don't need that from them. And so, US policy on Africa, in regard with the natural resources that we have, so that they want to promote democracy, I think that should not be there. If they want to promote democracy, they should come here and they should impose policies that will promote liberal democracy, having nothing in turn like the natural resources that they take, almost everything. Because look at Africa. It counts almost very small percentage on US foreign investment. But the little we have, they still want it. The people whom we had who can take control of Africa, who at least can help the Africans, US were behind their killings. And so, US promotion of Africa, of democracy in Africa, I think it's not making sense. We better have our authoritarian leaders.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to support my honorable member here that when we see that US and not only US but all the other European countries, when they are coming to Kenya or Africa because of our natural resources, yes, they are coming in different ways. Because the other day I heard that the Nairobi Expressway it will be finished in a few months. Yes, it will be finished, but you see, we will be paying them. They will be the ones that are going to take our, that road we should pass there, but you pay, so that we pay the debt that we owe them. When we are paying the debt, we will never know. They come slowly. When you're paying, you think you're paying the debt, you find that with time, it's like we are going back when they were just leaving us. It's like we are dating back, because when you see the things that they are.
I have a question. Is that US or China?
Okay, it's China, but as in, if you see, not only in China, but if you see, even US is coming with different ways, but you find in one way or another that you come and then they will start running us like the ballots. I was listening to this story of our dear sister who was killed in Laikipia County by an US, what do you call it? A British military. And this, by the way, that story, they were saying that they're trying not to talk about the story so that the soldiers that are coming from Britain cannot go back. Why are the soldiers in Kenya yet? We are making people who are there to suffer. Yes, there are good things that do come, but you ask a question, is it that the lives of people who are in the country are not necessary more than the collaboration with these countries?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. So I want us to just present facts. Africa is the richest continent in the world, right? Yes. Africa owns 30% of all mineral resources in the world. Those are proven facts. Example, South Africa is very well known for its gold. So whether the question is, does the presence of natural resources influence U.S. foreign policy on democracy promotion in Africa? Then my answer is yes. I propose the motion. In the international system, we say that there are no permanent friends and no permanent enemies, Mr. Speaker. But what is common is the interest. So whether or not we think that the US is trying to force us to democratize for our own interest, Mr. Speaker, we stand to be disappointed. And I therefore present the motion and propose it, by the way, that the presence of natural resources definitely influences the US foreign policy on forcing Africa to democratize. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I have a question to you. Let's come back home first. For example, Kenya. We have seen the US foreign policy is to eradicate corruption, to promote democracy and human rights, but Kenya doesn't have any natural resources.
Mr. Speaker, define natural resources.
Natural resource is anything that naturally occurs. It does not require humankind.
Mr. Speaker, let me point it to you that when the British were trying to colonize Africa, they loved Kenya because of the greenness. So let me tell you that land is a natural resource, which Kenya is very rich in. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I want to fully propose the motion that, as my honorable member have just said, tracing back to the colonization process, you can remember that they were all based on profit making. And all they wanted is to reinvest their surplus capital. All they wanted is to take the raw materials, what we had for their industries, back at their homes. And for now, US is the world hegemon. US is the world superpower. And all they want to do is to take what we have and make profit. They want to make profit of what they have. They want to reinvest their surplus capital. And what they use as an excuse is the little aid they do to Africa. For example, you see the...
We currently have no hegemony, but a kind of unipolar kind of...
Point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In our constitution, Mr. Speaker, that if a member raises point of order, the one who was talking to the speaker should assume the seat, and the one who asked for the point of order should stand. Please appreciate this, Mr. Speaker, that you should be observing because we have a constitution that gives us.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. So I want first of all to thank my honorable member for the correction. Thank you, sir. He's a senior honorable member and he should be respected. So as continuing with my presentation, so US is taking the advantage of the little help they are doing to us. For example, my honorable member stated about the medical part, the ARVs and whatever. But the main reason US they are influenced by what we have, the natural resources. We have our tea, we have our coffee, and from the basic fact, you can hear that the first grade coffee is always imported back to their countries. The first grade tea is imported back to their country. So US is not involved in any democratic help of Africa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this. First, we must look at certain perspectives in order to answer this question. Where does presence of natural resources influence US foreign policy on democracy promotion in Africa? So we must answer such questions as how these natural resources affect the development of a country or a state. basically we know that many states are where they are right now because of the resources. And the reason why US is probably, let me say, quote unquote, after these resources is because currently US is a superpower. And the reason why it is a superpower, it is because decades ago, per se,
Point of order. Point of order.
Point of order. Currently, we have no superpower in the world. We have a kind of unipolar system. Thank you.
Point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I would like my honorable member to please clarify on that point so that some of us can understand. For some of us, we understand that US is the superpower. So I would like, maybe I may be that behind, maybe I may be having certain illiteracy on that, and I would like my fellow honorable member to clarify to us, because I think most of us here understand that US is the superpower. So please just clarify. Thank you.
15 seconds for you to clarify so that.
Okay, hegemon is a state which supersedes other states in the world. It's on top. You get? It's on top of other states. So it's like the supreme. And currently, we don't have that supreme power. We have a balance between the five states. That is the US, China, Britain, Germany, and Russia. Yeah, so we don't have a kind of unipolar. Oh, we have a unipolar.
Thank you for schooling us.
thank you for the education. So on that matter, but basically my point is where yes, it is not a superpower, does not have, it's not a hegemony. But my point is, it won on the war on industrialization per se, and for it to retain its not retain, but for it to remain where it is industrially, it needs the help of other natural resources aside what it already has. Africa, yes, as a member said, has 30% of the world's. I don't know if it's a fact, I'm not sure on that, but it has 30% of the natural resources. And this answers the question why Africa is a subordinate state, or Africa is a subordinate nation in the international realm, whereas as much as it has all these natural resources, it is doesn't have per se the industrial, it is not fully industrialized to manage these resources. And that is where other states like US come in. And they come in the sense that they tend to bring about, let me say, democracy. And to me, I think by them bringing democracy and instilling and enforcing democracy in African states, it is a point, or it is a way of them puppeting us as African states, where yes, they will say that yes, you have the power to choose whoever you want, but in the real sense is, whoever you will choose, they'll still have a sort of, let me not talk of it as a bargaining power, but it is true, they will have a bargaining power because of their foreign aid in Africa. So the point of them bringing democracy in Africa, instilling the policy of democracy in Africa, will be the same point of them puppeting us into allowing them invading our own natural resources. And that is a point of where, let me talk of it as maybe neocolonialism, where African states will be or might be, quote unquote, colonized the second time by these same Europeans. And that is where we see the point, the same sense of states of China, like China, and also states like US. Thank you.
Question. So, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So, can I ask you, my member of parliament, that the fact that there is a way in which US determines the kind of leaders we have, do we say that they promote democracy, and if they promote democracy, in that sense, is that one democracy?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would like to answer her question. According to the way I understand democracy, democracy is a sense of the people themselves without any other external interaction or without any other external influence, them themselves making a choice for themselves. So basically by them bringing or instilling that part of democracy challenges the meaning of the word democracy. I don't know if I've answered the question.
Thank you. To me, US does not promote democracy in Africa.
Yes, and areas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this chance. I feel like I was contentless contributing to the motion. But then I have to say a few things. One, I would like my members to know the difference between democracy and sovereignty of a country, Mr. Speaker, because what he was responding to is not democracy, but sovereignty of the country. Then, Mr. Speaker, as I explained my facts, how US foreign policy affects or does it contribute to a democracy? My answer is yes. Because, Mr. Speaker, as my honorable member here defined what a foreign policy is, according to me, in simpler terms, is the objective or general objective that guides the relationship between a country and another in terms of maybe trade and other things, Mr. Speaker. So the presence of, Mr. Speaker, natural resources into Africa, specifically, if I use Kenya as an example, Mr. Speaker, contributes a lot into these facts like democracy, defense, international trade, because these policies controls the peace in our country, Mr. Speaker, and create a serene environment that these activities can occur, Mr. Speaker. You can tell me that we can have a country with natural resources, Mr. Speaker, and it has lacked its self-control, and you expect things like trade to occur. It can't. One of the biggest enemy of peace, Mr. Speaker, is a country that doesn't have control of its natural resources, Mr. Speaker. You can use the example of Congo. Congo is very rich in mineral resources, Mr. Speaker, but the poorest of it all in Africa. Why? Because it doesn't allow some of this country or these states that have democratized, these countries that have high technology, Mr. Speaker, to invest in their country. So, Mr. Speaker, then another thing, democracy and human rights just go hand in hand, Mr. Speaker. When these natural resources in this country is influenced or it's catered for in a nice way, some of these human rights will be respected, respect of human life, Mr. Speaker. And lastly, and I guess my point is that it can also lead to the protection of territorial integrity, Mr. Speaker. A country that US protects, Mr. Speaker, or a country that US has interest in, US will tend to come into it during its time of trouble, Mr. Speaker. So that's my submission, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for that chance.
Question. Point of order.
So, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask my member of parliament. One, Mr. Elias, you have said that Congo, being endowed with very much natural resources, is poor. I will want you to tell me what Congolese should do for them to be in a better state. Two, you have said that countries.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Before the honorable member raises her point of order, I would like to clarify, let her raise point of orders that are in line with what we are discussing, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Because if we start defining what Congo wants and what Congo does not want, it really wastes a lot of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congo is one of the African states, and for him telling us what he thinks that should Congo allow investors or not will really help other African states who are very poor.
Okay, I might respond to that, Mr. Speaker, very quickly because we can see it and it's very much gone. During my submission, Mr. Speaker, I have said very clearly that if we allow this country, for example, if we can record like we are using an example of US. You always use example of US because US was one of the states that attained independence those years, every 1776, Mr. Speaker, and you can't compare it with a country that attained independence just the other day. So allowing this country or this state to come into your country for maximum utilization of these natural resources, Mr. Speaker, it will come with its own benefits. Transport, infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. Just allow these people to come. We don't have the technology, we don't have the techniques. Just allow the technology to come to your place, Mr. Speaker. Are you answering? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to clarify on the US because if you have a young person, young person, want to defend, just for example, a good job like this one, that cannot be allowed because of this critical thinking of invasion will be taken by the US country, the US as a country. Another thing, when we talk about democracy, the US government sends observers to observe the elections in Africa. But we are having more challenges during our elections because there is rigging of elections, whereas they are sent. We have observers and still the democracy of citizens is being stolen, whereas the observers are there. So the US foreign policy, for me, it is not working for Africa. As it's my suggestion. Okay, maybe someone has to support it, but for my suggestion, the US foreign policy, sometimes it is affecting us negatively. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question. I wanted to ask my fellow member a question, where he talked of where they're still stealing in the elections when still the US are in vigilance. Are you suggesting that the US are okay with such? Are you suggesting that the US are condoning such election theft, as you say?
Okay, they're not condoning, but they're not doing anything after election. If somebody like, okay, you don't want to go further because in Uganda get a challenge in elections, but after the elections, all the matter did not act. We didn't see anything.
Point of order.
The Kenyan issue of rigging elections is not a matter of international law. It is a matter of municipal law. There is no way the US can intervene in such a matter. It is a matter within the sovereignty.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One, let my honorable member here knows it's not everybody who have done the national law, Mr. Speaker. For her to use municipal and which other one, international law, it's not everybody who is getting her concept, Mr. Speaker. Another thing, Mr. Speaker, Kenya is a very democratic country and it's a very independent country. We have our own constitution, and there are those things that are in our constitution that any other state cannot interfere with, Mr. Speaker. So these people are just observers, Mr. Speaker, and they have no absolute right, Mr. Speaker, to have any, I don't know how I refer it, towards the process of this exactly, towards the interference of the election process, Mr. Speaker. So I don't see the correlation between election, natural resources. Mr. Speaker, are we in the right track, Mr. Speaker?
Honorable member, Senator, I have a question for you. What is the work of the observers? For instance, I want to know the work of the observers.
You have time to respond to that, Mr. Speaker? Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The sole purpose of these observers in the election, Mr. Speaker, is to make sure that the election is carried in the right manner, or the election is conducted in the right manner, Mr. Speaker. but they don't have any direct influence toward the process, Mr. Speaker. So am I clear?
Yes, Honorable Member, you are clear. We'll have Jack, then we have final closing remarks for that second. Yes, Jack.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Speaker, for the chance. I would like to say, in international relations, states are anarchic in nature. By me saying so, we have no hegemony currently in the world, but we have states which can set a world order. US being one, China being maybe the second. So, and to elaborate more on the earlier points, even if US has as much power it has, it cannot interfere with any state's internal affairs. So we must understand that. Now to get to my point, US foreign policy. Now, because of the presence of natural resources, I want to get a case in Somalia. Somalia in 1950s, US influenced Italy and the UK to colonize the southern part of Somalia. Because of one thing, Somalia has some untapped natural resources, bauxite, copper, I think, and recent Chinese and Australian companies have been given licenses for identifying petroleum and gas deposits along the maritime border between Kenya and Somalia. So this means, I want to explain now, there was a time Somalia had a famine, I think 1965. US intervened in that issue, but what led the US to interfere in the issue of famine, the famine in Somalia? Because there is something, it is the mutual benefit. I come in hand, and the same I receive in the other hand. So US tried to assist Somalia in that, and on the US foreign policy on defense in 1970s. And someone can look at that one, maybe you can read on the Black Hawk Down. The Black Hawk Down, 1990, US had sent their troops there. Two allied forces from the US were killed. US withdrew their forces because of one thing. Yes, they want to promote Somalia to come to be a stable state. But I cannot be assisting areas and still he is dragging himself down. If I want to pull his socks up and then he has no shoes to cover the socks, I cannot go and wash the socks again. So I withdraw. I want to give an illustration. It's like, so US have tried its best to boost Somalia to become a stable state, but Somalia with the clan-like system have been watering down the US efforts. So this, we may see this very soon. The US president then may revisit the now tarnished US Somali relations which were there before. By the president, 1990 President George W. Senior was the one who made more US Somali relations more closer. From 1995 to current, but I am sure George W. Bush, now they visit that thing because US has, with the presence of these natural resources, because there is now this mutual benefit. I don't think even if we can now reach like the current MP in this area, that we have a partnership with KARATINA University or we have partnership with Kupssa, he must get am I on the receiving hand and then you receive on the same other side. So this presence of natural resources, US must look at it. Do we have a mutual benefit? We cannot come assist. We cannot get even those foreign aids if US is not benefiting. So the natural resources, I think it's a major condition. It's a major prerequisite for US foreign policies to promote human rights and democracy in Africa.
Any final submissions? 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Yes, Eunice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to give my closing argument with the following points. The question here, which I will not go into, is of pledging in liberal democracies, or what we call normal democracies. I won't go into that today because it's not the point of discussion. So, sorry, Mr. Speaker, for my conduct. US withholding aid for African states and promoting democracy in Africa sincerely shows that they have interest in Africa. Because why would they even withhold aid for countries which fail to democratize? Obviously, Mr. Speaker, it is not for our common good. It is not that they care about us so much. It is because they have interest. And what is Africa rich for? We don't have high technology. We can't brag of high technology. We brag of our natural resources. So, Mr. Speaker, this is my closing argument. Obviously, US is interested in our natural resources. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So are you opposing or proposing?
I am proposing, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I wish to continue where Eunice paused and to say that the kind of democracy that the US is imposing in Africa, I may call it an appearance of democracy. It's not like they are so interested in Africa that, oh my God, they just love Africa. they just like Africa. You know, it's an appearance for their own self-interest. Because of they have no business with a country that doesn't have resources. They have no business. So it's a kind of appearance. We want multipartism so that then the market can be opened, so that then we can be able to invest. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think my two members here, in the first, the two submissions they have made respectively, I think they have opposed, from my own understanding, I don't know. Maybe later on they should sit on the other side because they are just as confused as their
Point
points.
of order, point of order.
Point of order.
We feel utterly, absolutely, amazingly offended because I'm speaking for her as well, because we have clearly proposed it. We have clearly proposed it. It's not that they are friendly enough to us. That is why they are promoting democracy.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Next time you come with a dictionary, you just explain to them or read to them the difference between opposing and proposing. That's my submission. And then, Mr. Speaker, just as we are concluding, it's better. I was talking with the vice there, Mr. Speaker, just to know that next time, because of juniors here, first years, just come with a topic that they will understand. Because I know some of them are afraid, they don't know what you are discussing about. Mr. Speaker, there is no question because you are not debating anything here, Mr. Speaker. This is not a debate, Mr. Speaker. I was just making an OOP. It's not I have said so.
We are in the final chapters of the debate. We have the final submissions. We'll have that on the AOP.
So we are just. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
15 seconds.
Exactly. I will withdraw that point at the moment, but members, you should be civilized.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, when you're giving a member a chance, let the member go straight to the point. We don't have all day, Mr. Speaker. Kindly allow members to go straight to the point.
Thank you, Member Judge.
Mr. Speaker, sir, we cannot sit here living a world of amusement. My friend is like, you want to educate us. Some people that can't understand. We are in Ireland, we are in a institution of Ireland. You know that point.
Mr. Speaker,
Okay. We'll have
leaders should understand one thing, that as my senior member Jack have just said, we are an institution of higher learning, and I feel offended. I'm not the first year, but I feel offended. Intellectuals more than us, they know we should discuss. We are Kupssa group, so we should discuss the current emerging issues in the world and in the country.
Thank you, honorable member. Point of order.
I want to support you. First of all, yes, I'm a first year. In fact, in high school, I was the president of debate club and journalism club, so I understand.
Point of order.
Wait.
Point of order. Point of order. Point of order. Point of order. Yes, that's 1 minute.
No, 1 minute is a lot.
30 seconds. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A simple question. You understand what we are talking about?
Yeah.
Did you contribute to the motion?
Order. Thank you. Order. Honorable members, our time has run out.
Let me ask Mr. Speaker. You are going very far. Maybe you can just give one pass.
Order. Let's do this in an orderly manner. We'll not have any more point of order because time has run out. We have had the issues that we have raised, and now the debate is closed. We'll go to the AOBs, to our housekeeping. First of all, I'll invite Eunice to tell us something.
Good evening, members. So my name is Eunice. I'm the acting treasurer of this association. Okay. Before I even go into the in-depth of what I have to say, I'm going to give each member 1 minute to say their names and then their year, and then I'll get back to you. So we start from you, Peter.
So good evening. Good evening. I want to take this opportunity first of all to thank the House for the debate. It was good, but next time let's respect each point driven by any person, no matter a first year or a fourth year. So Dibaro Karaoke, Peter, second year in the class right there, doing political science and public administration. Thank you for the opportunity.
God is good all the time. Okay, my name is Obed Mkali. I'm a first year in political science. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Fasi. I'm a dear student, political science and public administration.
Good evening. My name is Lisa, political science, outgoing.
Good evening. I think I'm not a candidate. Senator Elias is my name. Political science, public administration. Na mimi ni elder.
Good evening. Okay, I'm Cynthia, Dadia, political science and public administration.
Good evening. I'm Natalia, political science and public admin, Dadia.
Good evening. Nelly Alice, second year, political science.
Good evening, members. Zakaria Mbati, political science, second year.
Good evening. Dan Mugwando, second year, political science.
Good evening. Apologies for coming late. I'm Caroline Wangui, second year.
Well, praise the Lord, members. My name is Kevin Mungu. I'm a third year student in the Bachelor of Science in Education. I really enjoyed the debate and I'm looking forward to attend it consistently in the future. Thank you very much.
Good evening. This man of going political science, second year. Message to the first years of this: don't seize yearning for knowledge. It is immortal. Thank you.
Good evening. Organizer for third year political science.
Good evening. My name is Alex Mwangi. I'm a second year student taking Bachelor of Science in Information Technology. It is my first time to be here. Having gotten the invitation through Caroline, I enjoyed the debate. I have identified people of interest and I had prepared for the debate, but I was to do more observation today. Expect from me. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kongo Anjiko, second year doing political science.
Good evening. I'm James Maya, first year doing political science. I'm sorry for coming late, but I promise next time I'm going to come much earlier. I'm going to come earlier. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm only going to. So next time I'll come.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Sumani. Yeah. I would like to apologize because I was not prepared for the debate. But next time, I've noted some people. I would like to challenge you. Together with my friends, my fellow first years, this guy is very aggressive actually. So I promise you next time, be very active. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Emily Wangi, first year political science. And next time, guys, we shall challenge you. Don't.
The motion, vote us next time.
Good evening. I'm Kageni Mwene, first year. It was my first time coming to the debate, and I wanted to observe how Kupssa function. Yeah, thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Wandeto Janina, and I'm grateful to be in this debate today. It was more observing. Next time we will be conversant with the motion. I believe that everything, even those who are conversant, so much knowledge will be gained somewhere. So we are also on the process. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, members. I'm Jeff Waweru. I'm doing political science, a first year.
I'm Baba Solomon, first year in political science.
Good evening. My name is Lewis Kiweli. I'm a third year student taking criminology, and today I came here as an observer of the US observer. I came to observe the it's going. I can say it's a good thing that you're doing as maybe the political science students and others like me.
Luca, that year in political science.
Okay, thank you so much for
I'm sorry for distracting you. My name, I'm Kamedrad Otieno, a third year, taking political science and public administration, KUSA chairman, hopefully.
Okay, thank you so much. All of you for introducing yourself. I'm sure now you know your neighbor, you know who you're sitting next to. So if you see each other on the way, encourage each other, your comrades, we face a lot of issues. I want to urge you guys to research on emotions. When they are sent on the groups, kindly, they could make a point. For example, I appreciate peace. Peace came earlier today. He told me he did not understand the emotion. I explained the emotion. So if you're a first year and you feel like the emotions are a bit complex, find someone who can explain them to you. So, my second point is to thank all of those who have registered and subscribed for this semester. You are really making our club go forward, and I really appreciate you. You know, like making a point of owning the club, making it yours is very important. So for those of us who have not yet contributed, kindly do so. Si pesa mob, ni 50 bob this semester to subscribe. Na kama ujaregister, ni just 100 bob. You can sacrifice 1 meal one day. Tunaambia 100 bob ndio tunatumia in a day. So just save it. Unaweza fast. Lisa anasema unaweza fast. Ama unaweza kulipa for one day. I can feed you for one day alafu subscribe. Not a so for those of you who have not yet sent the amount, this is the number we are sending. So if you don't have my number, can you take it? 0711 0711 780. We are at 780-285. Kila mtu ameandika, najua naangalia huyu juzi. 0711-780-285. Eunice, italeta Eunice Mboro. So kindly do so before the end of the yes. Thank you so much for Mr. Speaker.
I'll invite our organizing secretary to say a word.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone. Hello. It was nice. Today at least we really tried to speak in English. That was a big up to us, right? People really tried. Just really struggled here. Anyway, we have to laugh. Anyone who is always by my side must always laugh. I'm Lynette Akot, and today I'm very happy because we are very many. At least it's better. It's making us to press on, right? And at least we are learning something each and every moment that we are here. And for that reason, I'm really grateful for the Kupssa Club for granting us this platform so that we can exercise whatever we have in the mind. And so for that reason, today I feel like saying this. I'm really aspiring to be the Director of Gender, Special Needs and International Relations once SGC shall be dissolved. I felt it right to bring it home because I can't take it anywhere before bringing it home. And Kupssa is my home. I strongly believe that you guys gonna have my back and we're gonna move the great mountain, right? Yeah. Otherwise, let's continue pressing on. Thank you very much.
Good evening. First of all, my name is Patrick Ndomo. I mean, that day I take political science and public administration. And first of all, I'd like to appreciate our 4th years, Lisa, Eunice, Senator Elias. It's really a privilege to have you here so that we can learn from you, we can get things, great things from you. Also, I'd like to appreciate the first years for turning up after the calls we had to them to bring their friends. Secondly, about the motion, if you have a motion, you need to text me, to send it to me as soon as possible so that we can discuss and then choose the best motion and then send it to all of you so that you can research. I'm sorry, I want to apologize that you got the motion late. Maybe you did not have an opportunity to research. Thirdly, Kupssa is a learning ground. For our first year, I hope you kind of feel challenged. It's not that I'd like to maybe, I'd like to say you have felt challenged. Next time you make it an effort to research and make it your mission to at least submit something. For now, I'd like to invite our president with the closing remarks.
Good evening. Asanteni. Lineta amesema ni struggle na Kizungu. Mimi ni Mswahili lakini kidogo. I would like to thank you sana because si kwa mimi like niseme aje, let me say this, it is not guarantee that we as the executive we come up with something and now our constituents will follow. Our constituents will be the support, because if we can decide to come up with a motion and then me and Patrick and Lineta and Eunice and maybe now other lawyers tupate tuwapa watu watatu wa nje. So asanteni, but I would like to challenge you with last week we said last Wednesday I said if you have like a motion you can decide for us we debate we channel through our secretary up to Monday, no one had given us a motion. So we as the executive, we deliberated and then we so made it wise to come with that motion. Maybe to some it was not relevant, to some it was quite relevant, but maybe we came as we went on debating, some got some points there. But the main aim of these debates is to challenge you. Maybe you have heard something our seniors have said, the men and women in the house who have now higher IQ than us or have higher knowledge than us concerning political science, kina Lisa, kina Eunice, kina Elias. Whatever they have said, umesikia hegemon very first year. Google. We don't now use dictionaries. We have Google there. And out of the what is hegemon? You see, it's that's the need for wisdom. The need to be criticized, to criticize now. Next time ukikuja utamwambia no, nimeona hegemon hivi na unisema hivi, you will have a ground to stand on. I respond to this and I again reiterate last time I said, me as a first year, it is this Kupssa that made me now who I am as a student leader there. Because you will learn one to negotiate and to debate. That's all about leadership. It's not activism. It is you table what you have, and then the other side you table things are like this. So to our first years, for them who made the time to be here with us, tunawaheshimu na tunawapenda. So continue coming here. Go and challenge now in the group. Enda utishe watu na useme hegemon. Useme anarchy. Useme foreign aid. Useme foreign policy. Watu watabai hiyo mboga. Na ukiendelea hivyo. By the way, there is nothing to come up to criticize. Now, I think there are like 10 first years. If you go there, useme point, unapataona ushaanza kutisha na content. Wacha content yako sasa iwe almost there kwa sababu mwanzo. Wakiona hivyo maana yake we are the ambassadors of Kupssa. You out there, you out there. It is also wanaona you have our guy here from Sabu. You have Guru, my friend, the Mamile Wale, young Alex. They are not from this social classes, and they are from UNOCs. Wengine wanafanya IT. But because he has an interest in debate, we should even encourage more. The way they say factual foundation. The next point is about subscription and registration. maybe to our first years mnajiuliza hii pesa itapelekwa wapi. Maybe soon we will be having our retreat Kihori Forest, and I don't think, and Lisa will be attest to that, hatujaenda Kihori Forest kuenda kuimba wimbo huko ati hiyo ndo chakula ama we sit like that without refreshments, ndio. So and it is that fun that we cater for that. So kindly let us harness that contribution and subscription. I think Eunice was very critical on that, and she said, please, that number, decide maybe when you're on a registration 100, lipa chwani wiki. Next week, lipa chwani, itakuwa 100, then you are through. And we subscribe with a 50 bob, but registration is once, 100. And you won't pay subscription for this semester. Utagojea now 1.2 for them or say first years. To our second years, maybe more of them is naona tunataka hapa kina biashara hapa. So maybe hatukuwa na hiyo like for them we did